Peace. This is Star with the Star Blooms. How y'all doing? I hope y'all doing dope. I hope it's amazing. Nope, this was not planned. This is spirit. Get online. Say the message. I don't care. You're gonna do it anyways. They don't talk to me like that, y'all, but it's one of those things where it's like, we don't gotta do all of that, okay? I hurt myself. I got blisters on my finger from picking up like a hot pot cooking. I was like, I'm not listening, spirit. They're like, you can share this message. Somebody need to hear it. It's like, oh goodness. I love when they start talking to me because I keep on hearing it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. What's bigger than you is covering you, right? You do not have to contract. You do, because I'm going to change that. How I channeled the message was allies can't be bought. That's the original message that I had channeled. What I was about to say was you don't have to contract in contractual agreements that have already been previously. You get what I'm saying? Like, this was already set up before I came here, before I knew you, before I knew of you. All right, there was a plan for you. I was going to say that you don't have to contract with the Most High, with Source, but you do. It's just not necessarily in the ways that we've grown accustomed to doing things because it's done subtly different, loudly different. Okay, the whole, it's too much coming in, y'all. I keep on hearing them say recompense, right? The whole idea of having allies is basically having support. But a lot of the times, people, and this is why you have to be extremely cautious of your energy and what your mission is, which is why going within is so important and so vital. But it's not necessarily about being in fear, because that was like a large statement, because sometimes we represent boundaries as fear because we're enticing our ego instead of allowing our ego to basically transition into the new chain of command. And that's something that it took me a second when I received that channel, it took me a second to actually receive it fully, because there were so many layers to the recognition that my heart had something to give to my logic, and my logic had a steadiness and a balance to give within my heart. Yet, in order for me to show up in full representation of myself, I had to be free in the spaces of actually learning to not necessarily just yearn and desire for, feeling like I had to be in right of something. Like, this is your rite of passage. This person did this person did this. This is a lineage thing. Or so sometimes because we believe, based off of how we've been conditioned, that we have to have earned something for us to be at a rate to be able to receive something. There's so much truth to that. However, if you work towards something, you could have it. And a lot of the times when we work towards things, may it be your healing, may it be you being at a rate to where you could finally attract that which you are because you became in your being. May it be you being at a rate of integrity, recognizing that beyond solutions, that you get to be at a rate of steadiness in the way that you are leading in your life. You have the right to basically move at a certain rate. And sometimes we don't recognize that subtle transitions require us to be light in it. And I used to read that when I would write it, because I would write it like light, L-I-G-H-T, but Spirit was making me clear that there was a purge that was occurring. They're saying, don't mix up the messages. Being subtle in how you choose to move forward sometimes doesn't fully represent the bold behavior that you're in representation of. And that sometimes causes the friction, because you're honoring two spaces within you that you innately know and are aware that you're honoring. However, you may come into conflict within the ego, wanting to please people based off of what you previously stated before you know. And you don't have to hold yourself hostage of previous unawareness. You get to give yourself grace and mercy in those spaces because it's necessary. The whole idea of allies being bought, Spirit basically put me through a crash course within like the last 5 or 6 years, y'all. And I went from basically being like this loner to coming into community, to having access to people, to my gifts coming back online and coming to a rate to where I could actually hear and perceive source, and then me honoring those things and me making drastic steps that I wouldn't have naturally made, but I was being guided to, so I trusted. And I don't know why I trusted it. I just felt like I didn't have any reason not to, if that makes sense. 606, some people will ask, like, well, how did you know that the voice that you was hearing was your team telling you these things? A lot of it was ego. And I'll tell you this, and here's why. When I was in a lot of these situations where I felt like I garnered, like, I call it fall team, like the actual fall, the season. I call it not necessarily like Final Destination, because that's super, my but it's some people that you'll come into contact with that no matter what, they'll grow with you. And I'm not saying that you abuse these people, you hurt these people, you harm these people. I mean that these people will come to you at a rate to where you might not want to hear it, and they'll say it anyways. They'll come to you at a rate when you don't want the company, but they'll give it to you anyways. They'll hear you say things like, I got it, and they'll show up doing things just because they thought of you and it be exactly what you needed. Sometimes these people are here beyond the rate of the leaves falling, before the season shift, in between sessions. They'll help you plant the seeds, and they'll be there with the harvest, but they're not necessarily there with this expectancy. They be proud of you and the work that you've done, right? And those be your allies. However, in omission to certain rates that you have to basically be at, you can't label everything and everyone as allies. And the reason is because a lot of the times, some people that you may have around you in close proximity to you can be bought. They can be bought. And coming to a rate of awareness with that space and acknowledging it. I was about to say in my head, y'all, this is so childish, but listen, don't judge me, okay? Don't judge me. Yeah, I would have drank it off the camera anyway, so it's like, why not? 808. Spirit got me. For me personally, I think that a lot of the times we don't want to see the things that we feel like will hurt us, but those be the things that we need to see, and those be the conversations, the reminders that we need to have, just so we have a proper rate of integrity in how we're basically perceiving our environment. Because your environment is like truly the representation of the support that your foundation has, And if you recognize that you aren't heeding to certain layers of caution, paying attention to certain rates of like deception, and having awareness of energies that aren't necessarily willing to deal with the truth of themselves, it'll be game over for you before you even reach your rate of abundance, because you'll have to constantly go through these rate of closing off cycles due to energies that you've allowed closest to you, who you're giving access and privy to certain things that they don't really have to or need to have access to. I'm not saying that we use people, but I do believe that we meet people per the time frame that we're supposed to basically meet them in. There's a lot of people who I previously knew who don't know me, may not never necessarily know me, regardless of how much I come online and I share on here. But be at a rate to where you get to honor yourself and recognizing that the rate that you're going, you may have to travel light in it. And that may require you to recognize within seasons, certain things have to fall off in order for you to move forward. Because your allies won't be able to be bought. But the people that you keep around you wanting to please them sometimes could be convinced with purchase, with contract, to be able to perceive or create a space